Well, I'm actually going to begin with you, Harvey. Of course, you wrote the book of the musical. I mean, I'm just wondering how different is this kind of adaptation for the stage to the film we kind of know and love? And did you kind of lay the foundations on the film, or was it very much on the real story that existed?
No, 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 no. The story was beloved. The film is wonderful. I didn't want to do a version of the film, but you don't want to throw out what's good. And they did so many really wonderful things, so you try and keep whatever you can, but you do have to make it sing in a different way, and the movie does sing. The movie had the club scenes and all that, but the club scenes were songs they pulled out of somewhere that would sort of fit the show, as opposed to having a composer who could actually bring that moment to life.
They actually were the most incredible songs.
Wonderful.
I had to
perform fabulously.
Get a lobotomy looking at that. I had to say, okay, don't compare yourself. There's no way. So just start again, like make believe you never heard the songs.
But it's different because you create a world that's specifically of that world.
Yeah.
And then every character comes to life through music. And you can see the inner world of a character, through music. There's a sort of rule in writing musicals that a character speaks until they can no longer speak, and then they sing. And what Cyndi was able to do was find that inner life and really give them that inner life. Charlie in the movie, when Charlie gets very upset towards the end of the movie, he shuts down, and there's wonderful close-ups of Joel Edgerton's face, all upset and all, and that's wonderful. You can't do that on stage, a close-up on stage. But what we can do on stage, you can't do in film, is we can hear the entire inner life of everything he's thinking. His regrets with his father, how he's never going to be his father, how he let his father down. All of that can be expressed if you have a composer that's willing to dig that.
Well, no, I watched that so many times because, the hardest thing was Charlie for me. Because Charlie never really grows that kind of a spine. And it was like, okay, now Charlie has to grow a spine. He kind of he's a very internal guy in the movie. I mean, I watched those characters so many times and that movie so many times. Besides reciting it, I started to get the heebie-jeebies when I saw those characters in different roles. I was a little upset. Don't ask. I just got too attached to them as who they were in the movie. But he was the difficult one. And also finding the style of music that was Charlie's jam. You know how everybody sings a different jam in the shower? And this one here said there were no rules. And all my life I've been told, no, you can't sing like that. You're Cyndi Lauper. So now I didn't have to be Cyndi Lauper. I could sing any way I wanted. And I kind of when I was growing up, I listened to my mother's records. Before I met the Beatles and the Supremes, which I liked very much when I met them, that was it. But there was no distinction between my music and my mother's music. So I listened to all her Broadway shows. So while I was growing up, I would become those characters. I fell in love with Stanley Holloway. I fell in love with being Rex Harrison or, Julie Andrews, as the gutter snipe, And so when I did this
the difficult part, if I can just say, the thing that she was facing that those other people didn't is when you see the flower girl at the beginning of My Fair Lady, her opening line is, "All I want is a room somewhere." You know what she wants.
Yeah, Charlie.
What she's saying, Charlie doesn't want anything. Charlie doesn't know what he wants. His girlfriend says, "What do you want, Charlie?" She goes, "Well, as long as you're happy, I'm fine." But Lola, what do you want? You want to be a designer? Well, you have two characters that are so frozen in who they are out of fear. They're so frozen by what they've been told by their parents, by the disappointment. They think they are to their own parents. They don't know. So I gave this woman this really almost impossible job of two characters that have to sing about what I want that don't want anything.
Well,
and she found a way.
Lola was, but it's different. When you're a lost soul, you still function in the world. Lola had fashion and glamour and could put on a frock and bellow Broomhilda and feel fabulous. And that was what gave her her strength. I know that because that's what I did. And with Charlie, you know, we did that first number because he called me up and said, it has to be the most beautiful thing in the world. And I said, okay, the most beautiful thing in the world. He said, but first his father has to sing, and then the kid has to sing, and then the fiance has to sing, and then they all got to sing together. So I'm thinking, then I started watching every opening number. But I knew nothing about the I Want song. I just did what I thought the story was. And then he kept saying, well, they want the I Want song and Charlie doesn't want anything. So I said, fine, so why don't you have them while everybody's saying how fabulous shoes are, why don't you just say, you know, you're talking about shoes here, okay? You know, because he doesn't want anything. And that kind of satisfied everybody because at least he said.
And even when they offered Lola the job as a designer, Lola's thing is like, what is wrong with you? You know, give me feathers, glitter, and a hot glue gun. I'll make the world a pretty place. But a designer, I mean, they have no belief in themselves, which is, you know, so incredibly tragic. And yet, when you think about it, what is the difference between us people and people in musicals? People in musicals have I wants because they do know where they're heading and all that. Most of us don't. Most of us can identify with Charlie and Lola a lot more than we can identify with Eliza Doolittle. Most of us really are not sure, and most of us are walking around with these wounds from our parents, that are waiting for our parents' approval that may never come. And paralyzed by it. Well, and we have to get over that.
Even Lauren's character talks about her dad. And I thought, for me, honestly, just as writing songs, it was this bevy of delicious characters. Even, you know, he said, well, now George has to sing. So I'm thinking, well, there's one thing I didn't do, because my favorite song as a kid was There Ain't Nothing Like a Dame. And especially, there is nothing you know, well, he goes all the way down like a baritone. So I thought it'd be very funny if, you know, it's a dance number. So what the hell is George's dance? Well, George is the shopkeeper. Okay, polka. That's funny. It's still dance, but it's polka. And he could do the low voice. And all of a sudden I found places because he was pushing me to add things, you know, because I'd write the chorus and say, no, it's a great chorus. Everybody will remember the chorus. He's like, Mary, you know, that's not what it's about. So, you know, I'd have to keep pushing it. But then once we got to George, I said, well, hell's bells, you know. Let him sing a polka number then there. You know, just all of a sudden stop and sing a polka and go back.
Is that dirty? Hell's Bells?
No, it ain't. What do you mean, Hell's Bells?
They're very proper in London, you know.
Okay.
Queens.
No, but that's AC/DC. Oh, they're Australian, right.
They're Australian. They're nothing but criminals.
No, they ain't. No, they ain't, I'm telling you. No, sorry.
I was going to say, Cyndi, this must have been such an exciting and kind of new challenge for you, because usually when you have to write music, it's a very freeing experience. It's what you feel like you want to write about, but you had a kind of guideline. You need to write about this character and he has to be in this situation. Was that quite restrictive at times?
No, I felt it was quite freeing because I could put everybody in a different style. Everybody had different vocal style. I had a blast. I thought, this is so much fun. And how's Lauren going to sing? Oh, I know. Well, we'll give her like how I used to sing in Blue Angel. Let's do that. And, you know, that's Girls of Yore, too. And that's what he wanted.
But a lot of people think that the scary thing would be what you just asked, but the truth is the scariest thing in the world is the blank page. So she was given a character, a situation, everything. So you've got all of this stuff. It may be hard to do, and obviously it is, because otherwise everybody would do it. But there's something very nice about not having to look at it blank page, but rather say, oh, I've got this whole story to tell.
I was going to ask as well, I mean, of course, I'm working for a website called HeyUGuys, which is obviously a line from the Goonies, which are very heavily associated with Cyndi. I mean, that's celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. I was just wondering, I mean, it's got such a huge cult favourite, and I was just wondering if you always knew what you wanted something really special when you got involved in that project, and if it's a film you still have really fond memories about today.
Well, I got to work with Richard Donner, and Steven Spielberg was even in the video. And I kind of always felt like the underdog anyway, and Goonies was about the underdog. I maybe wouldn't have called the song Goonies is good enough, but it didn't matter. It was about being good enough. That's been my struggle my whole life. And unspoken expectations, or very spoken expectations sometimes, you know, I never did feel good enough. I try all the time, and I think you have to learn all the time, and I think that's why my relationship with that film was the way it was. I spent way too long on the video, but it was like our gang. I was able to bring all the wrestlers in, and Dick Donner was the director, and my mom was in it, and Lou, and my fiance boyfriend. He was wonderful in it. I think that it was a real our gang little piece, and I'll always have fond memories. Nobody got to see part 2 that much, but part 2, Andre the Giant walks in and just obliterates all the bad guys. And the truth is, I think is when Spielberg saw Andre the Giant and must have told Rob Ryan about this Andre the Giant guy who was fantastic, you know. And I think that that experience I wouldn't trade for anything.
You just got a history of 10 years of Hollywood there. All mixed in.
Really?
From The Princess Bride, Rob Reiner, Spielberg.
No, but that's what happened.
Well, I know it did. But you know...
I thought that's what
most
he
people,
asked.
No, that was your life. To most people, he was just sitting there going, she's talking about Princess Bride, she's talking about Rob Reiner, she's talking about Steven Spielberg. It's very impressive. You're very impressive. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no. Well, I said the wrong thing to Steven Spielberg day one, so I was never. I'm no good with powerful people. I stink.
You told me I will not do a thing with that shark. I will not pose in his mouth.
No, that would have been funny. No, never mind.
In a mermaid
I
costume.
always wanted to work with him, but I said something to him that I didn't mean that way, and then it just mounted.
This is your chance to say it out loud and get it off your chest and have the whole internet printed.
We were all eating lunch in his office, and he wanted to do a video. I went there so that I could work with a Hollywood director on a Hollywood set. I loved Steven Spielberg. He was telling me about Barbra Streisand and this and that, and I was like, okay, I think she's great too. I wouldn't tell you how many times I sang with her as a 9-year-old, but and then he wanted to do a video that was kind of like just me in front of a silent film thing, and I would just have to act behind a screen. And I just felt like, well, that's not, I didn't mean not creative, it just wasn't what I had envisioned. So instead of articulating the way I really felt, I just said, well, that's not that creative. I didn't mean creative. Well, everybody choked on their lobster lunch, and he got all indignant, and he got mad at me. But I didn't mean it like that. And then he was like, well, then I guess you don't want to work with me. And I said, you know, I was a little defensive, but I always felt like, hey, wait. That's not what I really meant, but I never said that to him. But I had moments with him, and I was able to work with Dick Donner, who was so fantastic in that experience with me. So, you know, I got best of both worlds. But I do. I have a big, stupid yap.
Drink that.
You're so funny. He doesn't drink at all. Just Diet Coke.
Thank you so much for your time today.
All right, I'm sorry. Erase that.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey, you